Hey folks, welcome back to the Business of Story. If this is your first time here, then let me introduce myself. I'm Park Howell, your host and author of my new book, Brand Bewitchery: How to Wield the Story Cycle System to Craft Spellbinding Stories for Your Brand. You can grab your copy right now at Amazon or Apple Books. Today, we have an infomercial legend for you who pioneered long-form storytelling to grow not one, not two, not three, but $4 billion brands.
Hi, Billy Mays here for OxiClean, the stain specialist. Powered by the air you breathe, activated by the water that you and I drink.
Enjoy wider variety and reduce the fat with a lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine from George Foreman.
Great tasting, healthier food in minutes.
Hi, I'm Crystal from Snake Racing. Are you looking for a unique angle to capture your extreme sporting moments? When I'm looking to get up-close footage of an off-road competition truck, I choose the GoPro HD Motorsports Hero.
We are just going on a little adventure.
Because I'm learning that a lot of my neighbors like to walk around their apartments naked. So.
From the Juice Man and Bread Man brands to the iconic Billy Mays OxiClean to the George Foreman Grill, Sonicare, and GoPro cameras, Rick Cesari knows a thing or two about direct response storytelling.
You used to have fancy productions that look good. And we've tested this over and over on Facebook and wherever, and people actually respond more to a simple video made with their mobile phone than a slick production. Because a slick production, people are like, whoa, they're trying to sell me something. Something that's shot on an iPhone and just really basic works better, we found, when you test them together.
Rick's strategies have helped grow 4 companies from startups to over $1 billion in sales. These case studies are outlined in his book, Building Billion-Dollar Brands, available on Amazon. His second book, Video Persuasion, teaches you how to use video marketing to create authentic testimonials, grow your business, and build your brand. He soon will be releasing his 4th book with co-author Jason Boyce called The Amazon Jungle, the Seller's Survival Guide for Thriving on the World's Most Perilous E-commerce Marketplace. Rick is the recognized leader in utilizing all forms of video as a powerful, effective differentiator for consumer brands. He continues to be on the cutting edge of new direct response and brand advertising campaigns, creating and implementing innovative cross-platform strategies that leverage the basic tenets of direct response marketing and its accountable ROI approach to selling. Today, you're going to learn a few direct response secrets to your online video marketing, including the power of your origin story, how to go out and get customer testimonials and produce them for really powerful advertising. We're going to explore the Robert Cialdini 6 forms of persuasion that you can use in your video storytelling right now. And, well, there's a few surprises. So I'm glad you're here. Stick around. Here's our good friend, Rick Cesari, on the Business of Story. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Park, it's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to it because I've listened to some of the episodes and I've really enjoyed the work that you do.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. And as I mentioned before we started here, I probably get 5 to 10 pitches a day now to be on the Business of Story, which I'm very proud of and honored about. And very rarely do I accept them because usually they're not coming in with our show in mind. It's just pushing someone. But when whoever you had representing you sent me that note a couple weeks ago, and they said, we've got the guy behind the George Foreman Grill. I'm like, I got to get him on the show. That would be a lot of fun. So welcome. I'm really glad you're here.
Hey, and I'm glad to be here too. And that, we can get into it, but that's a fun story to talk about a little bit later, how we did George's first infomercial.
Well, you have done some really iconic infomercials for anybody that's been watching TV over the last 25 or 30 years. What's your backstory, Rick? How did you get into the direct response world and then really pretty much hit it out of the park with several different brands?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and it's kind of funny. My degree is I have a BS in biology, and I was going to school, and my goal was to be a marine biologist. And I was living in Florida at the time, but I went to school up in Pennsylvania. In marine biology at the time, you would need to get like a master's degree or PhD, and I didn't feel like going on to graduate school. So I moved back down to Florida, and I became a little bit of a bum. I was a bartender and a lifeguard, but I was always interested in how do you be successful in making money. And I started reading lots of books. And the books at the time said that a lot of people made money by investing in real estate. And I started reading all the books about investing in real estate, Nothing Down by Robert Allen and things like that. And I went out and started doing a little bit of investing. And I went to a seminar, just to give you a time frame, how long ago it was. This was kind of the mid 80s. And I went to a seminar this guy was putting on that taught me to buy foreclosure property. I went out and in 2 weeks, I bought a property, turned around, sold it, made like $10,000. And back then, to me, that was like $1 million because I was a, hungry graduate student. And,
Absolutely.
and so I was so excited about it that I called a local business magazine down there called Florida Trend. They did a big story on the guy. His business took off. He asked me to work with him in marketing. And that's how I got into direct response. We were doing live seminars. We were promoting them with newspaper ads, and everything was formulaic that you had to spend so much on an ad and so many people would show up. And I learned the analytical part of the business. And then also the real estate guys were the very first ones to start doing the direct response TV or infomercials. And so that's how I did my first one with him. I worked with him for a few years, built a business up, and decided it was time to go out on my own. And I had always been very interested in health and nutrition. In listening to one of your previous episodes, that you were interviewing a guest, and he said he came from a large family, 10 kids, and you said you came from a large family. I think you said 6 or 7 kids.
7.
So
Yep.
I had 7 brothers and sisters, a total of 8 kids. Anyway, my dad died very young. He was 46 years old, died of a heart attack, all the classic things you shouldn't do. Smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, high stress, just all the things that would contribute to a heart attack. So I've always been very interested in avoiding that happening to myself. And I was interested in health and nutrition, read lots of books about it. And I started reading books about juicing and drinking fresh fruits and vegetable juices. And I went to a seminar this guy was putting on. His name was Jay Kordich, and he was known as the Juice Man. And I was thinking, well, the success I had promoting real estate seminars, why couldn't I do the same thing except promote juice seminars and nutrition seminars? And that's what I did. And we were in the right place at the right time with the right product and doing the right type of marketing. And that business just exploded. And we were able to go from 0 to 75 million in sales in about 3.5 years.
And Rick, did that then come out of the need to, or your want, your purpose, overcoming your dad's death, staying healthy, juicing, and bringing those same kinds of ideals to the public?
Oh, absolutely. And, you always hear about, you need to be passionate about something you were working on. And to this day, I'm still passionate about health and nutrition. And I, over the years, have marketed a lot of health related products just because of my personal interest in it. But I don't think I would have ended up at a juicing seminar or even interested in juicing if I didn't have the background and the personal interest in health. And it just so happened the company that bought our juicer business was called Sultan Housewares. And Sultan Houseware, this was in 1993. Sultan Housewares was based in Chicago. And the 2 reasons they bought the company, they bought the brand, the Juice Man brand, and we had developed a Bread Man brand. But they also wanted to learn to do the type of marketing that had made us successful. And they brought me 2 products. And one was a homemade bagel maker. And the other one was this slanted grill that used to be called the Fajita Express. The idea behind the Fajita Express was that you'd put it on the edge of your tabletop, cook hamburger meat, and scrape the meat into your taco shell. And so anyway, we repositioned that and got a spokesperson, George Foreman, and turned it then the Fajita Express into the George Foreman Grill.
No way.
Yeah, and made George's very first infomercial way back in 1996. And The funny part was it wasn't a success right away. Being a guy, I thought it would be really cool to start the half-hour infomercial with boxing footage of George knocking out Michael Moorer. He was the oldest person to ever regain the heavyweight championship. He was 46 years old. So paid HBO $15,000 for 10 seconds of footage, started the show out with that. I thought that would be an attention grabber. Instead, it turned off our main demographic, which at the time was stay-at-home moms. And once we took out the boxing footage, the infomercial took off, and the rest is history. It, went on. I think they've sold 130 million units since that time. So,
in looking back, then you started in the real estate world, and you learned the analytics of placing ads, and X amount of dollars for X amount of eyeballs got you X amount of butts and seats, which got you X amount of income in there. Working through that. So that's a very inelegant way to do it, but a really smart way to do it. And you then started building your creative chops in how to tell these stories in 30 minutes in this infomercial. How did you learn how to do that part of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I actually kind of learned it on the fly. I still use this technique today, but I love to talk to people who've used a product or, interview people. So say there's we'll use Sonicare toothbrush or whatever. I would go and interview 15 or 20 people that use that product. We would be videotaping them so that we would be able to use them as testimonials. But the information that I got from talking to those 15 or 20 real customers, authentic, people, would give me all the information I would need then to really piece together from a creative aspect how I wanted to sell a product and build a story around it. And you're absolutely right. Every product, the George Foreman Grill, Sonicare, OxiClean, GoPro cameras, they all were built around a story, either a founder story or a story that how did this product come into origination? I didn't know that I was storytelling at the time, but as I started doing some of these projects and building some of these brands, I realized that the story that you tell is the thing that captures the people's attention and makes it interesting. In other words, you can present a product and it could be just a widget, but by connecting or building a story around it, all of a sudden you're connecting connecting to the emotional part of it. And so I didn't know that I was doing it at first, but then I realized after a while doing this with several different products that was a really important part of what we did.
So you kind of backed into that understanding through these interviews. You understood how your authentic customers were buying and what attracted them to the product and what they liked, presumably, in the product. What is it, do you think, back then before you were analyzing it and can look and say, yes, it is the founder's story or the origin story? What were you thinking back then about a founder or origin story that was interesting to your buying public?
I was looking at it more that I always had lots of success with a product spokesperson, either a founder, inventor. The guy Jay Kordich was the juice man. We built the business around him as a spokesperson. The George Foreman Grill, we built that business around George. And I didn't realize at the time that it wasn't just the personality that was attracting people. It was really their backstory or their story that people could buy into that's made this a unique product or a unique brand because of the personality. So I've always been a big advocate of having a powerful spokesperson. Now I understand the concept of connecting their origin story, the founder story, the inventor story, whatever with that. But at the time when I first started doing it, I didn't do it. I knew that a spokesperson was powerful. And if we could bring the spokesperson background and story, people would gravitate to the product.
In the George Foreman case, he didn't invent the grill because it was the Fajita Express grill. You reframed it, repositioned it as the George Foreman Grill. And to this day, I always thought he was the creator of it.
I learned a lot about George's background and biography and history, and he's a very, very likable guy now. He doesn't travel around with an entourage like a lot of heavyweight guys. It's just him and his son usually. But at one point, he grew up, he was a little bit of a juvenile delinquent, and he was kind of a thug, and he was going to boarding school out in Oregon, and he had a bad reputation. And when he lost the famous fight to Muhammad Ali in Zaire, he basically was shut away for about 10 years, where he went back to Houston. He became a preacher. He taught a sermon every Sunday. He became famous for eating hamburgers. He ballooned up to like 300 pounds. When he did regain the heavyweight championship by knocking out Michael Moorer, his agent was was looking for products for him to endorse. And somehow they got connected with the president of Sultan, and Sultan was working with me, was the ones that said, hey, why don't we connect George with this grill? And we called it the Lean, Mean, Fat Reducing Grilling Machine. Talk about a long tagline. And also it's like you knock out the fat. So it was one of those things that just was a great fit, obviously. And the rest was kind of history. George is just an amazing guy to be around. People love him. And, we discovered some really funny things. Like whenever he was on QVC, if he took a bite of a hamburger or a bite of whatever food was cooking on the grill, the phones would light up. So whenever we made advertisements, we made sure we'd always show shots of him eating the food. And it was funny how you get that kind of feedback loop and the things that work and don't work.
And so you're just paying attention to the numbers again, and you say, oh, when we show this happens over here. Let's show this a lot more often. That's
Absolutely.
as scientific as it gets.
Yep.
Did you make Billy Mays famous with OxiClean? I mean, when I thought of OxiClean, I think of Billy Mays. He was the first spokesperson for that. How did that all come about?
Yeah, Billy Mays was awesome, and almost everybody knows who Billy is, have seen his commercials. And the product OxiClean was started by a guy named Max Apple, who I still work with today. He's 88 years old, and he's like a serial entrepreneur. He doesn't have to work a day in his life, but he just likes to. Anyway, Billy was basically a spokesperson on HSN, and they're selling their first product, which was Orange Glow furniture polish. And he was doing these demos, and Max said, hey, we should try to use Billy to sell this new product called OxiClean. And Billy's background, he grew up on the pitch circuit, the fair circuit, where you would go to a different state fair every month in a different state, and basically to sit in a booth. And if you didn't sell, you didn't eat. And he became one of the best pitchmen, regardless of the products. So the thing that's funny about Billy, when we made this very first infomercial, he goes, I want you to get a cameraman with a camera on his shoulder and just put it right in my face. So I'm looking right into the camera. And that was his way of basically like selling, like he was doing a live audience, like he was used to. And so we did that in the very first show. And that one came out of the gate and was a success immediately, really based on the great product, but more than anything else, Billy's ability to be a really great salesman or pitchman.
Did you ever have one of your infomercials blow up on you? Just didn't work. You put in a ton of time and money into it, and it just didn't work?
Yeah, that's happened more than I care to think about. Back in the old DRTV days, people used to say that 1 in 30 infomercials would not work, and there's a lot of reasons for that. My success rate was a lot better than that for a lot of reasons. I knew what I was doing, but I did. Going way back to the Trillium Health Products and the juicer business, the juicing infomercial with Jay Kordich was hugely successful. We were teaching people how to eat healthy. We created a bread machine called the Bread Man with whole grain bread mixes as a way of people eating healthy grains and breads and things. And we said, let's make an infomercial. Had a good spokesperson. We probably spent a couple $100,000 trying to make it work and never could get it to work. I learned a valuable lesson, and it goes back to the analytics and the numbers. there just wasn't enough margin in the bread machine, the cost of a bread machine versus what we could sell it for to support the advertising. And that's where you come up. You've probably heard figures like this before, that you need like a 3-to-1 margin or a 4-to-1 margin to make things work. And a lot of successful businesses have products with high margins because it allows enough room for advertising.
So some of those you didn't have the money to do it right, and you would roll out an infomercial, and it would go thud.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's happened like with the bread man and different products. But you know what? I've always had the most success with products that weren't like brand new inventions, but one that had been out in the marketplace a little bit, even if they were only selling like, $50,000 a year, something small, but they were out there, people were buying it, and we were able to use direct response to like put a magnifying glass and then blow it up into a much bigger successful business.
Do you have an example of one of those for us that we might recognize?
Yeah, I like the questions you ask. Let's get something a little bit more current. GoPro cameras. It's a great story. Looking for products to sell and companies to work with. I'll go to a lot of trade shows, and I went to the outdoor retailing trade show in Salt Lake City.
What year was this?
I would say it's probably around 2011, 2012. There was a guy selling these cameras out of the back of a Volkswagen bus, and he basically couldn't afford a trade show booth, and he was a surfer, so he drove his first Volkswagen bus out onto the display floor, the trade show floor, set up a beach scene with an umbrella and a chair and some sand, and he, because his background was a surfer, and he invented the GoPro to take pictures of himself while he was surfing. I said, hey, this looks like a good product. We should talk about it. 2 weeks after the show, the founder, Nick Woodman, flew up to Seattle. We basically had lunch at a restaurant on Lake Union. I remember he ordered a beer and some chili cheese fries, and we talked for about 3 or 4 hours. And I have to give Nick credit because he outlined this whole plan he had to build a billion-dollar company. He was so passionate about it, and it could, everything he wanted to do. And so we ended up doing all the television marketing for GoPro. And I think probably one of the biggest contributions we made is bringing a little bit of direct response to their advertisements. I don't know if you remember any of their 30-second spots, somebody in a kayak going over a waterfall or jumping off of a mountain in a wingsuit or whatever. But at the end of each of one of those spots, we had an offer or a CTA that said, go to our website, someone will win one of everything we make every single day. So people would do that. They'd go to the website, and the first thing they would do is register for the contest. So we would collect their name and address, and so we would be building a database that we could remarket to. The second thing that happened is they'd get to the GoPro website, they'd see all the other cool videos, and they'd share them with their friends, and it created a viral effect. And the third great thing is more traditional direct response. They'd buy a GoPro camera, generate revenue, which we could put back into the advertising. In 8 years, Nick was able to grow from about $1 million in sale just selling the camera in some surf shops on the West Coast to over $1 billion. He went public. It was one of the best consumer product things ever done on the New York Stock Exchange, and he became a billionaire overnight. Just pretty an amazing story for a guy that was just invented a product to take pictures of himself while he was surfing.
And how much of that success is due to his plan versus your direct response marketing and wisdom about how to sell the GoPro?
I would say probably 90% of him, because he was executing all of the other parts of the business. I feel like we were responsible for a big part of it because anything you saw on TV about GoPro, my agency at the time was the one that was responsible for buying all that media time. So we had a big part in it, but he's the mastermind. He had the vision and implemented and the foresight. I mean, he was the one that basically got all of the extreme athletes to use the product initially, and that they would share all their great videos on social media, creating that viral effect. And you think about it, here's a guy that invents a camera in his garage, and he's up against Sony, Panasonic, Kodak wasn't bankrupt at the time. And what he did was he carved out, I'm a big believer in a book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. And he carved out a niche in the marketplace. He looked for the blue ocean, which was basically a camera that you could use for outdoor sports. his biggest invention wasn't the camera itself. It was the mounts, where you could mount it on your wrist, you could mount it on your helmet, you could mount it on your surfboard, on the handlebars of your bike. And that allowed people, instead of a camera facing out, allowed it to face at themselves and take pictures of themselves. And it kind of coincided with the whole selfie boom. And, again, that's why the company was so successful.
My Toyota Tacoma comes with a mount already up in the windshield that you could just slide one in there. So he had that kind of impact. I remember getting my very first GoPro within that first year when it came out, and fiddling with it and playing with it. And I still have it sitting around here somewhere.
It takes amazing pictures. A lot of Hollywood shows like The Deadliest Catch and Gold Rush, they use the GoPro a lot to take all of that footage, a lot of that action footage. They used to order like hundreds of units and stuff to use on their production.
Because I kept going overboard, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that leads to today's show topic, and that is you are here to help us all do a better job with our online video. Video is the place to be. That, according to all of the social media pundits, both live, recorded, and I think a lot of us still struggle with that. And in particular, trying to be found in an e-commerce or on an e-commerce platform like Amazon. And I, for one, know that you've got a book coming out here. Where do I have that written down? It is The Amazon Jungle, the seller's survival guide for thriving on the world's most perilous e-commerce marketplace. And when I launched Brand Bewitchery in June 1, I was pleading with folks, and still do it today. Please, if you buy the book, go leave me a rating and review, because it helps me get found in the Amazon jungle. And otherwise, I languish there with all the other authors. So today, you're going to help me as much as anybody. What can I do to be found? What can all of us do to be found in Amazon if that's where we are selling? Or for that matter, what can we do to be found online, even if we're not on Amazon? And how does video play into that, and your experience in direct response and all the great products and projects you've done over the past several decades? What can you tell us today to make us better at this?
Well, that's a big question.
Sure
Let's jump in and get started. The thing about the Amazon Jungle is a great book. There's over 5 million third-party sellers on Amazon, 5 million people that are selling products. How do you stand out from the crowd there? We talk about that in the book, that it's kind of a little bit of a dual strategy. One, you have to make sure that on Amazon, and this is stuff that I took from my direct response background, you have to make sure that your listings are optimized correctly and the images are good. And we like to talk about that the images that you're using in your listings, those should be very much like you're looking at the front store window or brick and mortar retail store or a magazine ad. If you go on Amazon right now, and you can go to some big brands and look at their listings, you'll see like a coffee pot, and it'll just be, here's the front view, here's the side view, here's the back view, and it's just like lifeless. So one of the things we did is bring to the listings the things we learned from TV. A lot of people on their Amazon listings will talk about the features of a product. And it's basically, it's got a 0.5 horsepower motor, it's got dishwasher safe plastic. And I've always been a big advocate of talking about the benefits. There's an old saying, you've probably heard it, features tell, benefits sell. And so you need to bring those kind of things to your listing. So let's go back to that example of a coffee maker. My co-author in the book, Jason Boyce, has an Amazon agency called Avenue 7, and one of the clients is selling coffee makers on there. So one of the very first images we put on there is a woman. There isn't even a coffee machine. It's a woman drinking a delicious cup of coffee. She's just waking up in the morning, and you can see her smelling the aroma. And it's like, that's the type of thing that's going to attract someone to your product or your listing that the other guys aren't doing. The other thing that we do is we use infographics a lot. And that's something I learned from direct response television. So instead of putting up that picture of a coffee maker and showing just a front view and a side view, call out the benefits of it with graphics right on those listings, so that people are looking at the product and they're saying, wow, this has an automatic timer. My coffee will be ready in the morning when I wake up, and you're calling those benefits out. And even though these are simple things and they might not seem revolutionary, not a lot of people are doing them. And that's one of the things how you can stand out from the crowd.
Rick, I would imagine people aren't doing that on Amazon because Amazon can come across as like a really glorified Dewey Decimal System. It's just a sheet full of a lot of different information and products that they're all competing in. So let's just go in with our logic brain. Let's throw in a shot. Maybe it's a pretty picture of the product or whatever. Talk about the features because we know that features are going to outsell the features of the other product. We have much better features because it's our product, of course, versus taking a TV approach to it and using that lifestyle photo of the woman enjoying the cup of coffee and then talking about the outcomes, what you actually get. So it's not about what you make, but what you make happen is what you're saying should be in your listing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that people forget, and it took me a while to figure it out, but platforms like Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, I say this all the time, human psychology doesn't change. So the same hot buttons that worked in a catalog, in a radio ad, in a newspaper ad, in a TV ad, if you understand the concepts of human psychology, and there's a great book, you've probably heard about it, called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini.
Oh, yeah.
There's 6 basic hot buttons, and I talk about that in my book, Video Persuasion, that these things, you should appeal to those things because they're proven over time to work. And so look at Amazon, it's like, oh, that's an amazing new technology or whatever. But really, if you go back to the very basics that appeal to human psychology, you'll have success regardless of the platform. And so the second part of the Amazon, which I want to mention is it's just as important what you do off of Amazon as on Amazon. And this is where I think the storytelling comes in. So I had a client called Puria, 2 sisters from Taiwan. They built an $8 million business doing $8 million a year on Amazon. They wanted to expand it. What I had them do, they were doing no other marketing but Amazon. You go to their website and it was like awful. So the very first thing we did for them was basically create an origin story. Like, where did this product Puria come from? It's like an all natural product that helps eczema. You couldn't find that information on Amazon, but on their Shopify site, we created this origin story about the sisters, and it turned out they had a great story. They learned this. Their mom believed in natural medicine, and she created natural remedies in China. They took this remedy that they had used for skin conditions when they were growing up. They brought it over here and they made it into a product, and it worked fantastic. But you can't tell that story on Amazon. You have to tell that on your website, but people might choose to buy it on Amazon after they read it. So it's kind of like hand in hand that you have to do your good marketing off of Amazon as well as what you can do on Amazon.
Rick, you had mentioned Cialdini earlier, and I have him in my book as well because I found his book. What we did is I read that book many years ago as I was creating my story cycle system and bringing story into brand strategy and development. And then I put his principles to work when my wife and I went over to Hawaii, and I subjected her to a timeshare condominium sales event that took about 3 hours because I said, I just want to proof these out. And we didn't luckily buy anything, but you could see them in effect. And I just want to go through them real quick since you brought them up. So from his book, Influence, reciprocity is there. Give first to get something in return. So
let me give you an example.
Yes, please do. Yep.
You're in Costco and they have little food tables and they give you a piece of whatever it is, summer sausage, a cracker, whatever. The idea is they're giving you that for free. You feel obligated to buy a box of whatever they're selling.
That's the really you do.
Simple example of the reciprocity.
I always walk away sheepishly when I take that little toothpick, put it into the meatball, pop it in my mouth, and bolt. I'm always hoping someone's coming up behind me. So how do you do reciprocity on an Amazon listing?
That's a good one. I don't know if we can do it so much on Amazon. That's one where we would do it more on the website. And that's kind of the whole concept a little bit behind content marketing and giving away a ton of free information so that people trust you and become loyal to you. And then they'll end up wanting to buy your product because you've built up that trust and credibility.
So we've got, after reciprocity in no particular order, commitment. People want to act consistently with their beliefs and values. They want to be committed to it. How does that play into what you do direct sales wise, whether it's going through your website or directly to Amazon?
This gets into a little bit more complicated sales message. You sat through that sales pitch, the timeshare sales pitch, and they start to get you to say what they call a little yes or a little agreement or a little thing that you like. Then that builds up to where if they get you nodding your head and saying yes and agreeing with it. And so if you think about it, that could be used in almost every sales message. And in the half-hour infomercial, which we used to do, you basically are giving people information. You can almost see the viewer nodding their head. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. And then by the time it comes to order, you're leading them down the road to making that final commitment.
So you get them nodding. Yes, yes,
exactly.
yes. Then you've got authority. And of course, that comes through your website and I would imagine how you message on your Amazon listing.
Well, authority is awesome. And that's why we talked about spokespeople. Let me give you an example. I have a client in Seattle called Pluggable. They make computer peripherals. They're the largest seller of docking stations on Amazon. They do high 8 figures in sales, very successful company. Basically, there's a perfect example when you talk about authority. The owner of the company from day one, his name's Bernie Thompson, started making videos. First of all, you can go to their website and you can see his origin story. Why did you start Pluggable? What are you doing different? Why are your products better? And that video is there. Basically, every time he introduces a new product, he creates a video for that product that you can find on the website, on YouTube. And so that's giving you the information that allows you then to purchase on Amazon. But the authority thing is something I'm a big believer in using. I call it third-party credibility. Let's take Sonicare. We're selling a Sonicare toothbrush. The authority principle comes in. I went to the dental show in the Moscone Center in San Francisco and interviewed some of the top periodontists and dentists in the country, and they all had been using Sonicare, and we put them in the show. And so the authority is these are the dean of the Harvard Dental School. If he tells you Sonicare is good, your tendency is to believe that the Sonicare is good.
And then we've got liking. And this all pertains to if you like the pitch man, then the pitch man is that much closer to getting you to buy.
That's also the difference, and we can relate directly to this one on Amazon, is putting people into your products or advertising, like the woman that was drinking coffee, and you're putting people that are aspirational in there. My good friend, the co-author of the book, Jason, he had a company that sold air hockey tables and things like that. And he was one of the ones that was guilty before I started working with him of just showing the product. And I go, Jason, show a family using the air hockey table. That'll be appealing to them. They'll like the people in the picture and they'll make it more. And he started doing that. And he saw like a 40% increase in sales just by making some of those little changes.
Yeah. Again, it's not what you make, but what you make happen that people buy. Mm-hmm. Scarcity is another one of Cialdini's principles.
Oh yeah, that's the one, order today, going out of business. There's lots of ways of using that. And it is a very powerful way of doing it. This product's not available in retail stores, or this deal isn't available. And it's just really creating a feeling that you have to take advantage of this product, this offer, whatever it is right away, because it won't be there. Either the inventory will be out, or why supplies last is a famous saying. But, the funny part is, all of these things still work. And so that's my point is when you're marketing, whether it's social media or doing paid advertising or PR or creating your videos, if you have an understanding of these things and you can incorporate them in your videos, you're going to have more success than if you don't.
I know you're up in Snoqualmie, up just outside of Seattle, very near where I grew up there. There was a great show, and maybe it's still playing up there, called Almost Live. That was done out of Seattle, and Pat Cashman. Are you familiar with one of their? They have the funniest video, and I will have it in our show notes. You all got to check this out because it deals with scarcity and takes it over the top. He does this quote unquote 60-second commercial for Roscoe's Rug Emporium. they've been going out of business for like 35 years. And so he just keeps saying, going out of business, we're kaput, we're down the road, we're shot. So you got to come in now and make your purchase. And it is
Exactly.
one of the most hysterical pieces I've seen with a send up to the advertising, branding,
Yeah, and
marketing world.
I want to see that too, so I'm going to check that out. But I think he probably got that because there's a part of Seattle called Pioneer Square, and there's always like a rug shop down there that always has a going out of business sign in the window. And because people's mentality is, if they're going out of business, I'm going to get a good deal.
Yeah.
And it still works.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the audio of that at the end of this show for all of you listeners out there. When I wrap up, stick around because you will laugh your tail off. Finally, we've gone through the list, and this is going to lead into another topic that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's social proof, testimonials of showing
That's
other
my favorite.
people. Yes. So let's talk about that. And how do we go about getting those?
That's a great question. I have most success working with a product that's already in the marketplace, mainly because I can talk to authentic customers that have purchased the product. Actually, one of the things I do, if people go to my website, which is rickcesari.com, I give them an email sequence. It's a 6 email sequence that they can send out to their database or customer list or whatever you want to call it. And that's how I set up testimonials. I've been using this for 15 years and refined it, and it really works well. It's for free. But anyway, you said how you go about getting it. You basically have to go to your customer list of people that have bought the product. And I don't care if you're a brand new business and you have 15 customers, reach out to them. I think the biggest mistake many businesses make is they don't talk to their customers enough, because their customers are the best source of information. But I take it a step further. When I talk to the customers, I have a video camera there, so I'm recording it. And I'll ask the people a list of 20 questions. How did you hear about the product? What did you like about it? Why did you buy it? Would you tell a friend? If you were trying to sell this product to a friend, what would you say? And by the end of those questions, you know everything about what someone likes about a product, what they don't like. And if you talk to 15 people, you start to see trends. You start to see people saying the same thing. And those are the things that you emphasize then in your advertising. And if you do this a few times, you'll see it's not like a magic formula. It's almost like, wow, this is information is just there waiting for me, and I haven't done anything with it up until now. So
this 6 email sequence is just what you have found to encourage people to open up to you and make that. You might send out the first 3 or 4 and you get bupkis, you hear nothing, but it's just about encouraging them to be able to be open for a testimonial.
Yeah, and it turns out it's a little bit of a numbers game. Not everybody you reach out to is going to agree to do it, but we've always found, if you ask enough people, you'll get enough of a response to set up a day when you want to do. Even if you choose not to do filming and you just want to ask them to share their information with you, they'll do it. It's something that I think is so valuable, and you get so much great information.
Well, in this day and age, you can do it all on Zoom. People are so used to watching interviews and whatever on Zoom. So set up a Zoom session, do an interview. I'm doing that right now with our Build a Better Brand Story Sprint. And we've had a lot of success. We filled up our first 2 groups, and it's gone over just exceptionally well. And so what I do is I get them back on and I help them. What can I clarify for you in the story and so forth? And it leads into the natural testimonial. Did this work for you? Did it not work for you? What can I do better?
Absolutely. And I'll do that. I'll record the Zoom, and then I'll get a transcript made of the Zoom recording. And then you can, like, if you're doing a video edit, you can just go through the transcript and say, wow, that soundbite was great. That soundbite was great. And you could just do a paper edit and put everything together.
That's beautiful. What is the biggest mistake people are making in video these days, as everyone is like the gold rush to get video up, both live and recorded video in social media? What's the biggest mistake people are making?
What's nice about video today is, and you know this, you used to have to use a $50,000 camera and expensive lights and great audio to get that type of video that you could use that was usable. Now, when you hold your phone and you're up, you have almost that same camera capability. But you know this, doing this show, that if you don't have good audio, it will affect the video. So I just say that there's lots of solutions that you can get microphone wise that will give you good audio to go with your video. And the second is just some simple lighting. And again, on Amazon for $100, you can get the really simple lights that can make it the lighting good. But even that isn't as secondary. I think the audio is. Then the next part is content. So here's something we're learning that's changed a little bit. You used to have fancy productions that look good. And we've tested this over and over on Facebook and wherever, and people actually respond more to a simple video made with their mobile phone than a slick production. Because a slick production, people are like, whoa, they're trying to sell me something. Something that's shot on an iPhone and just really basic works better, we found, when you test them together.
Well, then it sure demonstrates how things have changed in your and my lifetime in the branding marketing world. It used to be back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s that you would have to spend a boatload of money to make your spot look, your infomercial look as good as it possibly could. And as the masses have become the media, they are much more drawn to what is authentic and what is casual. Make sure it sounds good and you've got decent lighting on you. But yeah, that jerky iPhone camera, because I think people just say it's more believable. I'm actually interacting with this person real time.
Oh, absolutely. It's believable. It's not done professionally. There's still a place for professional looking stuff, just different time to use it. So
Rick, to wrap up here, do you have 2 or 3 top video tips that you can give to our listeners to help them be just that much more accomplished with it?
we were talking a little earlier, and I have another book that was out called Video Persuasion, and it really talks about everything you need to know to engage the viewer in your videos. But let me just give you one simple bit of advice. I always say that making a video is like giving a speech. If you're standing on the stage in front of an audience, you need to capture their attention. There's 3 proven ways that I've always used over the years. One is you can ask a question. Would you like to lose 10 pounds? Would you like to have more energy? And then you have to answer that question in the video. The other is using a factoid. The Juice Man infomercial, we started out, researchers found an element in broccoli called indo-3-carbinol that's been shown to help prevent breast cancer. Then that catches people's attention. And then the last is what you do day in, day out, interviewing people, is you can start your video with a story. Just it doesn't have to be a long story. It can be a short story, but it draws the viewer in. And those are 3 little techniques that you can use to start any video that's going to help capture people's attention. That'll go a long ways if you capture their attention to watching the whole thing.
Well, Rick, thank you so much for being here. What a fascinating show. And I got to meet the guy behind some of the legendary brands that I've been watching on TV for years. So awesome to have you here. Where can people learn more about you and find your books?
They can go to my website, which is rickcesari.com, R-I-C-K, and my last name is C-E-S-A-R-I, rickcesari.com. And they can find my books there. But more important, download that email sequence. I also have a couple other free bonuses on my website, a good formula for making videos at work. So there's a lot of stuff there that you can get for free. And I urge you to go check it out.
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
I have a lot of free stuff too. And by the way, folks, you know where to find my free stuff. It's at businessofstory.com. And thank you for being on this episode and being here with Rick and I. And if you like what you heard and you've got some folks that would benefit from Rick's wisdom on selling just about anything and using video to do that, and especially hacking your way through the Amazon jungle to be found, then by all means, please share this episode with them. If there's anything I can do, you know where to track me down. We have been having a lot of success with the Build a Better Brand Story Sprint. 3 weeks, 6 live sessions with me to help you dial in your brand story to get it so it is absolutely singing for you in 2021 to increase your sales, to increase your influence. You might have to give away a few things to increase your reciprocity to get more people in there. But that's what this is all about. I learned so much today from you, Rick. I appreciate it. And for the rest of you, please return next week when we will have another story artist right here for you like Rick. And until then, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks for listening. And don't forget about Roscoe's Rug Emporium for you right now.
At Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium, we're saying goodbye. We're closing our store forever, and you can save like never before. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is saying, that's it, it's over, we're done, time's up, farewell, so long, toodaloo, we're out of here. We really mean it. No kidding, this is really it this time. I know we've said it before, but this is the real deal this time. We're hitting the bricks, gonna mosey, gonna sashay, gonna clear out, vamoose, saying adios, ciao, Wiedersehen, sayonara, au revoir, hasta luego, Godspeed, until we meet again, which we won't, because Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is closing forever. We're never coming back. It's over. We're done. We're shoving off, bowing out, flaking off, getting gone. It's at an end. We're cutting out, kaput, finish, drop the curtain, break tent, pull up snakes, beneath. This is absolutely, positively it this time. We're not pulling your leg on this. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is down the road. We swear we won't ever be back. It ain't gonna happen. Forget about it. We're shutting it down. We've lost our lease. Can't find it. Don't care, because we're done. Closing shop. Putting up the shutters. Bolting the doors. Slamming them closed. Gonna board the place up. Nailing it shut. Big nails. Nothing gets in or out. Sealing it off. We're history. We really mean it this time. We're not jerking your chain on this. This ain't no snow job. We're not bluffing. No kidding. So shag your big fat bottom down here, PDQ, because I swear if you dawdle or dink around, you'll be SOL. Because we're closing forever. Any day now. Could be a matter of weeks, days, maybe tomorrow. But then, that's it. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium. Going out of business since 1957.